So, good evening. Thank you for coming out on such a rainy night. Michael Wood, Superintendent of Schools, and this is our second forum on the honor roll, and it has evolved. So it's good that you're here and that we're taping so that we can show it on our 3 cable stations so that parents and students can get an idea of how it's evolving. Feedback from parents and educators along the way have impacted some thinking around what we would like to propose. So tonight I wanted to go over the big picture of things, of where we are. What we have now is basically a system where we have differences at each middle school, and with our new report card we want to get it the same so that we have a common set of expectations for our kids as they elevate to our high school. Even so, the models that we have at the middle schools are different than what we have at the high school, so we want as common a thread to come through to our high school so our students aren't shocked by anything more than the transition into 9th grade. And even so, when they do get into the high school, it's a bit complicated in terms of courses that count and courses that don't count. And so we want to make it less complicated and more meaningful as we go through the calculation. So what we're looking for really is about a model of recognizing achievement. We want to make sure that our kids that work really, really hard know that the honor roll means something and they're being recognized for that achievement and how hard they work. It's important because it motivates students. Not every student is extrinsically motivated by recognition, but we want it to be something that does motivate. And it's just not an empty platitude to their work and possibly for their lack of effort. If they try to take courses, especially at the high school level, that they are really able to do more and be challenged in an upper level. So we want to challenge our kids. And if we have a system of recognition, we think we can challenge them in meaningful ways. We have to support them, though. We have to make sure that we have systems in place that scaffold learning so that kids who really could be more successful or as successful at another level, we still have systems in place that will support them and make sure that they just don't go to a different level and feel as though they're lost. And once they're at a level that challenges them, that stretches them, we want to reward their success, and we want the honor roll to mean something in regard to that reward. Something as educators we think is very important as we build systems in place for curriculum and what we think of as a broad, comprehensive curriculum for all levels, but certainly our high school is considered a comprehensive high school. We want all courses to count. We think it's important that kids who want to take a pre-vocational course at a level that's challenging them, even though they are also taking a very challenging array of courses in AP or honors, we want that course to count too. And we want to make sure that they know they have to perform in that class, that they can't just take that as a course because they think it's going to allow them to get essentially an easy A. We don't want that to be the common thinking behind taking courses at our high school. We also want to make sure that for kids who are challenged appropriately at our CP level or our accelerated level, we want to make sure they know that they can earn this kind of reward for their effort and their results. And we don't want to leave them out. So we want to build a system that captures everybody's ability to learn and everybody's ability to achieve. So at the middle school level, we're proposing now that only A's and B's will be considered for the honor roll. That I think since the last time some of you were at one of our forums, we only had 2 levels. We broadened it to be a 3rd level, and this is so that we can be consistent with the high school, that it works well to have that. And these are the grades that they would have to earn. So they would be highest honors at 95 to 100, high honors would be 88 to 94.9, and honors would be 80 to We would also have their related arts courses count. And something we are proposing, and would enjoy your feedback and those in the audience about this, is because we know not every area of related arts is an interest to students, but we value it. And what's more important, we think it's important to making connections to other courses that they may be taking now or in the future. So what we're proposing is all of the courses that are considered related arts at the middle school level would count as one course. And we would average those grades together, and they would have one grade. And whatever that grade is, that would be what would be considered for the honor roll. And of course, all of those grades would have to be above a C. And that way it has value and it counts. The social behavior and work habits, which is a new component on the middle school rank card that is launched last year for a pilot, will be launched this year with actually scoring in this area with grades and standards, will require that students have a meets or inconsistently meets, which is the middle range, versus seldom meets, which is the bottom range on that scoring. And then students with accommodations or modifications to the course of study will have this applied to their eligibility. So we don't want any student to be excluded from being considered for the honor roll in either category, academic performance or what I refer to as habits of mind, or work habits, because they have some type of disability or are on some student success plan that recognizes that they are challenged in that area. At the high school level, continuing that theme what we just saw at the middle school level, though, we're moving from grades to GPA. And this was important for our high school staff to start transitioning our kids to be thinking about GPA, because that's the language that colleges speak. And that's the period of time where they need to start to be concerned and obviously consider what their GPA is going to be. So for the high school, what we're proposing is that we would have highest honors be at 4.0 or above. High honors would be 3.75 or above, and honors would be 3.25 or above for the next level. These numbers coordinate with the grades that you saw for the middle school, so that there's a commonality there. And just like the middle school, we're strongly recommending that we do not count C courses. Just like the middle school, we would have all courses count, whether they are what they consider an NL, a non-level course, or the student is taking a CP class or a accelerated class, honors class, or an AP class. And the reason why is because we're going to use the weighted GPA, which is a system at the high school that puts weight on a course based on its rigor. And so students would then be rewarded for and encouraged to take courses that increase their eligibility, because they're increasing the number of courses that they're taking as along the continuum of learning for challenge. So there are pros and cons to this, and we know that. It's not a perfect system. And certainly, as you look at your individual learner, as someone who would make the honor roll under this new system or not make the honor roll, I know that's going to influence people's thinking about whether or not this is a good system. But it meets almost all of our criteria as we looked at it as educators, of making sure that all courses count. It's open to all kids. There's no reason that anybody in our high school or our middle schools couldn't achieve the honor roll if they apply themselves and appropriately challenge themselves. All courses count, which is very important to our teachers. They want to know that if a student is in their class, they're taking it seriously and it's meaningful. And the one thing that makes this a little bit of an awkward system is that this GPA, although it's a weighted GPA and the students would have a weighted GPA throughout the entire time they're in the high school. When they do a final calculation for GPA for courses and for other types of awards, it will be different because those calculations would not include non-level courses. So people would just have to be aware going in that they may have an artificially high or an artificially lower GPA because of the mix of courses that are in there. And that's something on the technical side we're going to have to figure out how to do to make sure that there aren't wide swings of kids thinking they have a higher GPA than they actually do. So we're going to have to look at that and make sure that it's a meaningful activity. So I know this was brief, but that's part of what we want to make for our honor roll is we want to make it simple for our kids to understand so that as they're thinking about the different kinds of challenges they want to experience, and again, mostly at the high school level, it's pretty fixed at the middle school because the course rotation is what it is. We hope that they will consider that if honor roll is important to them, and we hope it is, that they will challenge themselves appropriately and push themselves where they feel they can and be successful, and then earn the reward of being nominated or being eligible for the honor roll. So I'm happy to answer any questions that you might have. I know we have a very small audience, and I've talked to some of you before and had some emails from you previously, but I'd be happy to answer questions that you might have relative to the new proposed honor roll, and be happy to have a dialogue with you.
One question I had for you is the percentage of students starting from middle school that take honor roll now, and what you think
Sure.
the difference will be with the new system?
Sure. So right now, at all of our middle schools and pretty much our high school as well, about 2/3 of our students make the honor roll. We think that with this new calculation at the middle school level and the especially having the 80 to 85 piece added, that there won't be much of a change. Because right now, most of the middle schools have it starting at 85. So we've lowered it a little bit. So with the few kids that may not make it because we have one of our middle schools does the average approach, they won't be able to make it anymore because the C won't count. There might be some loss at that school, but for the schools that were recognizing it by grade and we're counting C's already, there won't be that much of a difference.
Just how many, do you have the number of kids that always make it, never make it? How many times?
I don't have that number off the top of my head.
Seems like that would be more hard to know. Because, well, I guess, just curious,
Yeah.
that's a really small number that don't make it.
Yes.
So if you're gonna always have a group of kids that never make it, the point of having the honor rolls, or it doesn't seem like what's the point, because if kids that can't make it, never gonna make it, so the point of trying to get them to achieve it, you should have it publicized, isn't, they can't.
Right.
So, and it's such a small group that they kind of feel like, okay, you're the ones that don't,
Right.
versus these are the special ones that do.
Right.
So, I mean, I don't know if this particular thing addresses, means something, but that
Well,
is a bigger question.
Sure. So we've had that conversation, and we've gone we've had the dialogue about why have an honor roll to begin with, when we have such a large group of students who make it, and we haven't specifically had the conversation about for those who aren't making it on a regular basis. But I'll look to see if we can find that information. I don't know that.
What is that, just for me to answer why we have the honor roll?
Yeah.
Because when I just heard you say why we have the honor rolls, you go, this motivates kids
Right.
to, but if you have this group of kids that just never can make it,
Right.
I start to see how that's really motivating, I mean,
So.
I don't know that it just,
No, I hear you. So in our answer to how to motivate them was to allow that 80 to 85 piece in there. We're hoping that will give more variability to the kids who have a chance to make it each trimester at the middle school level. Certainly at the high school level, that should still allow a greater number of kids to make it or ebb and flow into it and out of it based on the degree of rigor in the class or challenge in a particular quarter. So that was our answer to that particular piece. But I'll see if I can get more information and email it out. Yeah.
So the slide showed that 3.25 or higher was honors.
Right.
Is it B at 3.25 or is it 3.0?
So depending at the high school level, depending on which track on the weighted GPA.
Non-levels. You get straight B's.
So we're going to be using the weighted though. So
say it took all college prep then non-level process.
So it's unlikely that somebody with a 3.25 will make it because that has the way the weighted works, because you're working from weighted to non-weighted. The 3.25 is a B minus on the weighted scale. So it would essentially be a lower grade on for a CP class, so that eligibility won't be there.
I guess I thought this was like an A's and B's honor roll, like at Yale. So if I come home and I have a B in every single class,
Right.
but they're not weighted classes, I don't make the honor roll at the high school.
So, right, so at the high school, we transition to the GPA, and depending on the level of the class, because it's a weighted GPA, kids who get a B may not make it because it doesn't give them enough quality points to earn the 3.25.
I'm a little confused though, because if let's say I'm taking an AP course, and I get an A plus, doesn't that count 5.0?
Right. So it depends.
If you're making a B, and you're in college prep, you're not going to go with a B. It's still the same.
So you won't be on a lower than a B, and because it's average, if you're taking a range of courses, the chances are you are going to be on the honor roll, and you'll make it.
If she said I'm making a B and everything, all college prep, a B counts as a 3.5.
Roughly, yeah.
So then my average is going to be 3.5.
That's right. Right. You will be on. I'm sorry. I was thinking highest honors when I said that. So for the example that you give, they will make the honor. They just would be at honors and not in the upper two levels.
So a non-weighted B is 3.5. It's not 3.0. I thought like that AP class was at 1, right? So isn't it?
It's 0.5. It goes by 0.5 increments for our high school.
Yeah, I don't know what the translation is between where it is.
So if you have, for example, the way we looked at it, if you had all CP classes as your range of courses that you were taking, if you wanted to make highest honors, you could make it, but you're going to have to pull off a 4.0 in every class. That's the only way you can make it. And that's why that piece about, well, if you are in CP classes and you're getting an A plus, maybe we need to work with you more to encourage you to be taking more challenging courses because they have more rigor to them and you're clearly able to be successful at that type of class. And that's something that internally we want to have more conversation about because we want to make sure, not that we don't want kids to get A pluses, but we want to make sure they're challenged and appropriately so.
So 4.0 is A plus.
It's an A plus on a 4.0 scale.
So in my regular field is 3.75, minus 5,
Yeah.
plus 3.25. It sounds like a B plus in one of your college prep
Right,
courses.
right. I think that's about right. try harder, or what can we be doing to scaffold the learning so that you can be more successful in that level of course? Because I see us as partners, so it's not just leaning on the shoulders of the student.
I try to not focus so much on the grades, focus more on what my child is learning and.
As we do too,
later.
right.
So, if a test comes back and it's not a great score, that's okay, but you know what, where you get the same level.
Right.
But I feel like if you're saying you have to get B pluses, or you don't really think that you're academically achieving, that's putting more focus on grade and not.
So, and this is the yin and the yang of the conversation about weighted grades versus unweighted grades. So, part of that answer to that is if you're earning a B plus in a CP class, maybe it would be more challenging for you, but appropriately so, to be taking an accelerated class. So you would actually get more quality points, and if you earned a B plus or a B in the accelerated class, you would then become more eligible for the honor roll. If the honor roll is what's driving you, there's got to be a way for you to get there, and that's the way for you to get there. And we know that the honor roll isn't the end-all be-all for all kids, and that's fine. But we just want to make sure that everybody looks at the honor roll and says it's about academic achievement.
Well, and based on the conversations that have happened at the school committee meetings, it's about recognizing students that might not get recognized because they're not the athlete or the star of the play or president of the student council and that kind of thing. But one of the members made the comment that these kids are all the same people. So, they are the star athlete and star of the play and they're getting high honors and they're in student government. So then, the kids that aren't making honor roll are just, it's like that much more apparent that they're not good at anything.
Well, my perspective is a little different because my kid is not athletic. So the only arena where we can really shine is academic. If the honor roll becomes sort of everyone's a winner.
Right.
And right now, a lot of kids are openly contentious in the honor roll. It's meaningless because everybody's on it. And there's no distinction between people taking how much credit for honors. And so the kids are just on their nose at it, and it's affecting the demotivation.
Right. And we want to flip that. And that's feedback that we had from many parents, at the meeting that we had, the first forum. That group was very much of that mindset. And that's feedback that we heard from students as well. And so from school council conversations that have been had over the last couple of years. So that's a piece of why we want to gear this toward having kids be aware that the more challenging the class that you're taking, the more eligible you will become for the honor roll. And that we hope will be a motivating factor for them to do that.
I guess I do see that in high school, although I'm not sure, and this is some kids around, but I'm not sure if the numbers aren't changing, if some ultimate, acknowledgement is going to matter. And I think kids will, that in high school there is that piece of, taking, there's not necessarily a distinction between regular scores, not regular scores per se. So I think that will be addressed somewhere.
Right.
The numbers of kids making it, I don't know. I'm wondering too, I know there are some high school schools that also just keep it by group. So you're just in a group. Your first group, second group, third group, fourth group, fifth group, whatever, all the way down to Ds. And so, you just fall into these pockets where everybody has a group. You know what I mean? So then, which group is sort of higher or lower.
Right.
That one, I don't know if that would, that might take away from you either make it or you don't make it.
Right.
Or you need something.
What we want to encourage is that there's a greater mix, because educationally and from a learning perspective, the better mix our classes are with learners, the more likely all are going to succeed. It's a,
What do you mean by that?
well, in other words, I think what you described is essentially tracking.
No,
Oh,
I'm
okay.
asking you just I'm just calling it something.
Okay, I'm sorry, I
I'm saying,
misunderstood.
we have honor rolls, we have 2/3 of our kids making honor rolls.
Right.
And so many kids, no matter however you distinguish within that.
Right.
So I don't know what the solution is, a lot of kids, so if you're, it feels like it's more like, do you not make it versus do you make it? I feel like, and I'm just being this one.
No, I know.
But, it feels like, I think the high school definitely, there is, I think, within those who make the honor roll, there is, the rigor isn't accounted for. I haven't thought for enough to know whether this, how much this will impact that, and if this is something more on it. But I guess I'm just more thinking of that piece, if so
Right.
many kids make it, it's really the ones that don't make it that.
That's a good point, because what percentage of our kids are star varsity athletes? 2/3 of the student body. So why isn't the academic honor roll as exclusive as being a star varsity athlete? Because then, it's a special, small fraction of students that make it, and there's no stigma in not making it, because most of the kids won't make it.
So, I think the first couple of years that we have this, until we can see how kids recognize that they need, they're going to need to move, we're actually going to make it more of a, I think we're going to see a drop off. From the roughly 2/3, I think we're going to see it down under 50%. I just don't know how many, and I'm not going to predict. But it's going to drop down, that's our overall hypothesis. Just that reason, we want it to become more of a recognition and not be everybody gets it. Just by the nature of having the weighted GPA will make that happen. Well, the ideal over time, though, is that students will want to be on there, and they will start pushing themselves into other levels, and that number should rise again. But to stay with that recognition that it truly is an honor because they're taking very rigorous courses again. That's our goal. I think shifting to the weighted GPA.
So with that, one question I have is, I'm more confused about why the double standard between including the nominal courses for the not standing. Because the nominal courses, I assume know the highest merit rate in the nominal course. And for students who are taking a lot of AP classes, the only thing the nominal course will work well is to bring down their merit average.
Right.
And also, it doesn't.
Well, so, I'm sorry to interrupt, but so for that GPA, those classes get taken out. None of those courses don't count.
None of the courses don't.
For their academic GPA for consideration, that's a different conversation altogether. So for college admission, for colleges, they only want to see everything on a non-weighted GPA anyway. Because they have to compare every high school across the United States. And believe me, every high school has a sort of different approach to GPA. It's just not the same. But all of them have figured out how to make the 4.0 system work. So colleges will reduce all of the GPA to a 4.0 scale. And we will provide colleges with both their unweighted and their weighted GPA. Their weighted GPA will not include the non-level courses.
And class standings not using courses.
Correct.
But for the honor roll, we are going to have courses.
That's what we would propose.
I'm questioning what's the rationale.
So the rationale there is we want to make sure that kids are taking those classes for a serious reason. And the best way to do that is to add another purpose for taking it, which is that it could count toward honor roll. And so if they pull off a 3.75 or above, their eligibility increases for the honor roll. So the minute you stop counting a course at the high school level, because it becomes a strategy to get the best GPA, to market yourself well for colleges, we want to make sure that they're not essentially taking classes to just increase their GPA or not. We want them to be taking learning seriously and valued. So this is another way that we can make that happen. Yeah, it's not a perfect system, I agree. But, you know, we offer the curriculum, we offer the value of that curriculum is there. And for some kids, it's what connects them to school. So we want it to count. And at least in a small way, it would.
So we have students that are choosing between taking a non-level course and a level course.
Sure.
And you're worried that if non-level course didn't count towards non-level, I would think you would want students, if non-level courses didn't count towards the non-level, students would might be more motivated to take a level course.
Say that one more time. If kids take a course and it doesn't count towards something, they're less likely, or there's a perception, there's a less likely to take it as serious as when it counts towards something. So we want to look to make sure at all of our courses and all of our systems that are in play that all courses count towards something. And this is one way to make it count toward the honor.
So like gym class.
Yes, sir.
And then honor roll.
All right, so I'm kind of questioning, how, if the honor roll is celebrating academic achievement, gym class doesn't seem very relevant, and to kind of mix it in, particularly when they're not on a class, if the students maybe have all A's or finals or courses, that gym class is actually lower up there than the actual significantly for most gym class. You can't have five.
Right. Right.
So yeah, so I might advocate maybe for non-level courses, if you make a C, and that disqualifies you. I like that idea. But mixing the numeric number of non-level courses, not as involved in academic courses, seems a little strange.
So PE is the one that gets picked up. So I would be the first one to admit we have to change the image of PE. It can't be that you're getting credit for changing. There are standards that are outlined that we want kids to learn and to demonstrate as part of life fitness learning. So we want kids to take PE serious and wellness serious. And we don't want it to just be only the athletes can do well. That's not okay either. I mean, it should be a broad, in-depth curriculum that everybody has a chance with the right scaffolding to be successful at. That's our job. Shame on us as educators that we let PE sort of drown in this sort of sense of it has no value unless you're an athlete. So we've got to change that. But the one way to say to our PE staff and to students who take PE is, okay, you asked for it, you want it to count. You have to make sure that it's going to count in the right ways and that everybody has a chance to succeed and it's going to be meaningful for all kids. And let's make sure it happens. So there are a lot of things at play here, but as soon as you excuse it and make it not count for anything, then everybody thinks it doesn't count. And nobody works to make it count in other ways. So by including it at least in the honor roll, we're saying it counts, and everybody has to rise to the obligation of making sure that it counts for the right reasons.
Yeah, that would be my only feedback, that making a C in gym should disqualify from non-level. But I just don't want to sit down. So you're like some middle school,
Right.
C. So a C&A related arts course in middle school would disqualify you from
Correct.
high school.
Correct.
So I would definitely have to put that for high school. But whether or not the A or B or Gen Flash averaged in A
Mhm. Yeah. Well, originally, the proposal was that we weren't going to do averaging, and we were just going to do grades, which I think should still be on the table myself personally, but I'm one of many. But the high school is really married to the GPA for obvious reasons, and I think, we want to support that. So that's at play here. So if we only did grades at the high school instead of GPA, then this wouldn't be an issue, because 98.9% of the kids earn either better in wellness or in Phys Ed. So, until we increase and improve rigor, that might change a bit, but, so that's why that has to still be in play, but right now we're looking at GPA.
Well, to that, I mean, one possibility is renaming it, so instead of highest honors, it's the A's, and then high honors would be AP, and honors would be B, but that's not your college prep B, so if you're
Right.
the other B. But something else that does affect the GPAs are the arts classes. So I think in the audience there are a lot of music and art people.
Sure.
And those classes tend to not be weighted, even though they can be very challenging.
Sure.
If you're getting A's in, performing a musical instrument or vocal, or, some of the kids are extremely talented artists, they're not necessarily going to get the same recognition as somebody who takes an AP Physics. And it doesn't mean that the AP Physics person is working, maybe they're working harder, but it's a different type of work.
Right. No, I would agree with you. Again, I think that's a rationale for going with grades rather than GPA. But, so I think that still has to be worked out. We do have AP and honors arts classes and music classes. So it is available to them, but it's not on the scale that our other core courses are.
Usually it's like 11th or 12th.
Right.
So it's, you can't get in as a freshman in honors.
Right.
Would that be, does that get better in some ways, non-class to grade?
So it's considered a non-level course, so it's on a 4.0 scale rather than a 5.0 scale.
So even if it's honors classes,
No, I'm sorry. So if it's honors class, that means it's level.
so they're taking the honors thing.
Right.
Oh, I think it's
So like for art, you have intro to art, which is not level freshman year, and then as a sophomore, you can take accelerated art.
Right.
So that's kind of different.
and then that would be.
And that counts. That's right. Yeah.
So an accelerated art class, you could get more than 4.0.
Correct.
grades.
Right. For A plus, you get 5.
I'm just wondering, is there going to be a group evaluating, is this meeting?
Yes, so-
Objectives?
Once we approve this, we'll go the rest of this year with whatever we approve. And we'll have a benchmark of the end of the year and take a look at the data about who, is it meeting our objectives, including, making sure that everybody is eligible, making sure that we're moving towards making the honor roll more meaningful in this year would be that we actually see a decrease in the number who get it, because that's how people would look at it as being more meaningful, is that it was more rigorous to get into it. So we'll be looking at those numbers in both the middle schools and the high school.
Is that the same, is there a group of this?
There hasn't been a group. We've been doing it as an administration and the school committee. So at the end of the year, we'll report out.
And your staff?
What's
You
that?
guys are all really busy, so you guys are resilient, in these regulations.
Yeah.
What are you doing?
Right. Well, that's just a running a power school. We'll just have somebody to do the count. Because all of this comes through our student information system. And that's that's just a few hours of calculations. Around the reports.
It sounds like you were worried was the man deciding what to do though, in terms of talking to students, teachers, and such.
Yeah, we've done that. We've done that ad hoc throughout the fall and last spring to get anything to this point. So we have, I know the conversations, have been these very small intimate groups, department chairs talking about it, the high school, to involve the teachers and getting their input that way through that, at the staff meetings for the schools, and our administrative meetings. It's good that, a topic like the honor roll is a meaningful conversation. I know the count here doesn't necessarily suggest that, but I've had several emails from lots of different people. And, the core sense is, to your point, Mark, about making it mean something to our kids so that when kids get recognized, they feel like everybody knows why they're getting recognized. And right now, for whatever reason, the reputation is, it's not. And so we need to make it mean something. We hope this will be, and this may be a phase one. Originally we started this conversation because we were having the same middle school report card for the first time in our district's history. We may in a few years, after we evaluate what the data looks like, have to look at it again more thoroughly and say, well, it's not as meaningful as we want, so we need to tighten some aspects of the way it's calculated. Well, I really appreciate you coming out. It's been a great conversation. I wish we had carpooling because you could all just drive back to that. So with that, but I really do appreciate it for our audience that will be watching it at home through their cable or internet connection. We do have my address is superintendent@nrsd.net. We will be considering this at our October 8th school committee meeting. I don't know that we'll vote that night, but we will definitely be considering it so that it will be getting ready to be voted. We have first trimester and first quarter coming right up, and we want to make sure that we're able to implement it, the new system for both. So the quarters for the high school and the trimesters for the middle schools. So thank you for coming, and if you have anything more to add to the conversation, please send me an email. I'll be happy to respond or invite you to come to our school committee meeting on October 8th and have the conversation with our full school committee. So thank you very much.